Okay, I'm going to start. We're all ready? I call to order this public hearing at 7 p.m. Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. Good evening and welcome to this public hearing. I would like to acknowledge that the town of Gibsons is in the traditional territory of the Skohomish Nation. This public hearing is being held to consider rezoning of 529 Gibsons Way and Lot 23 Gibsons Way from CDA1 and C5 to a new comprehensive development area zone and parks, recreation, and open space zone. Also to alter the official community plan land use designations to residential tourist accommodation. I will introduce the council members present this evening: Councillor Christy Thompson, Councillor Anne-Marie DeAndrade, Councillor David Kroll, and Councillor Stafford Lumley. I am Mayor Silas White and the chair of this evening's proceedings. A public hearing is a statutory requirement under the Local Government Act. All persons present who believe their interests are affected by the proposed bylaw amendments shall be given an opportunity to be heard on the matters contained in the proposed bylaws. Under the Local Government Act, the chair of a public hearing is entitled to make procedural rules for the conduct of the public hearing. For this public hearing, we will use the following protocol. Persons wishing to speak during this public hearing are invited to use the raise hand feature by clicking on the hand icon found at the bottom of your screen or pressing *9 on a telephone. The meeting administrator will then add you to the speakers list, and you will be able to unmute and turn on your video when it is your time to speak. If you are attending this public hearing in person, please make sure you have requested to speak with our administrator. Your name will be added to the speakers list. Once your name has been called to speak, you will be prompted with an invitation to become a panelist. Please accept the invite to get your opportunity to speak. Please identify yourself by clearly stating your name and residential address before beginning to address council. Speakers are allowed up to 3 minutes to make their presentation and may not transfer all or part of their allotted time to another speaker. A timer will be used and shown on the screen to assist in keeping track of time. Members of council are present to hear your submissions and not to answer questions or debate the merits of the bylaws under consideration. Council members may ask for clarification from members of the public after their submissions, and I would ask them that they do that through me as well. Persons wishing to speak a second time with new information or perspectives may do so only after all other persons wishing to speak have been provided the opportunity to speak for a first time. Persons speaking a second time will be limited to 2 minutes. Persons wishing to speak a third time with new information or perspectives may do so only after all other persons wishing to speak have been provided the opportunity to speak for a first or second time. Persons speaking a third time will be limited to 1 minute. Today's proceedings will continue until everyone who wishes to speak has had an opportunity. If necessary, we will adjourn this evening's meeting and set a time and date to reconvene. It is important to note that council members have not made up our minds on this issue. You are being given an opportunity during this process to persuade us to your way of thinking. Focusing on the topic, which is the land use change, including proposed plans for this new land use, will definitely help your case. I may intervene to ensure that we stay on the topic under consideration, though I hope I don't need to. If you have already made a written submission, we have read it, or we will be certainly reading it before third reading if it's still to come in. It is on the public record, and council is considering written and spoken submissions equally. So I encourage you not to read it out again if we already have it in writing. I will also clarify that the purpose of this meeting is only to hear from members of the public one by one. Council will further discuss what we've heard and other aspects of this development proposal and its overall impact on our community at a subsequent council meeting to consider third reading of this bylaw. And I'll now look to Katie Thomas from our planning department to introduce the proposed official community plan and zoning amendments.
Thank you, Mayor White. The OCP Amendment Bylaw 985/2029 is to change the land use designation of Lot 23 from public community uses to park and recreation on the lower portion and residential tourist accommodation on the upper portion. The zoning amendment 106565 is to change the zoning of 529 Gibsons Way from Comprehensive Development Area 1 to Comprehensive Development Area 3, CDA 3. The upper portion of Lot 23, Gibsons Way, from Downtown Commercial 5, C5, to Comprehensive Development Area 3, CDA 3, and the lower portion of Lot 23, Gibsons Way, from Downtown Commercial 5, C5, to Parks, Recreation, and Open Space. The OCP and zoning amendments are to allow for a 22-unit apartment building with underground parking to be constructed. The Stonehouse building is proposed to be converted into an inn and bistro. The comprehensive development zone.
Manny, you need to let him know we could all hear him.
Hi, could you just come down here? We're actually having to hold out the whole meeting. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. The Comprehensive Development Zone 3 is a site-specific zone which will allow for apartment use, commercial guest accommodation, and parking uses. The maximum density of the zone is 22 residential units. The existing English Park is proposed to be enlarged and formalized as a park. English Park will continue to be owned by the town. As part of the proposal, the following community amenity contributions have been endorsed. The Stonehouse building is proposed to be preserved with a covenant to ensure the historical integrity of the form and character of the building is protected. A heritage designation may be applied after the renovations are completed. $150,000 towards the creation of a newly enlarged English Park. And the town will receive 16 public parking spaces accessed from School Road, which will be owned and operated by the town. A development agreement is proposed to be registered on the title of 529 Gibsons Way and Lot 23 Gibsons Way. A development agreement is a document that outlines the conditions of a development. The development agreement states when each item is required, providing a roadmap for the developer and the town to ensure that the items council have negotiated through this OCP and zoning amendment process have been secured. The development agreement would outline 6 items as shown on this slide. In order for an OCP and zoning amendment to be adopted, the following process on the screen must occur. First reading, second reading, public hearing, third reading, and adoption. We are currently at public hearing. It should be noted that a bylaw amendment can be rejected at any point in this process. The bylaws were given first reading on June the 21st, 2022. The bylaws were given second reading on March 7th on 2023. The resolution to hold a public hearing today was adopted by Council on March 7th, 2023, and a notice of public hearing was advertised in the Coast Reporter on April 14th and April 21st. Third reading takes place after a public hearing, and prior to adoption of the bylaws, sign-off is required by the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, as the property is within 800 metres of the highway, and a development agreement would need to be executed and registered on title. If the bylaws are to be adopted, a development permit for form and character would then come before council for approval. Thank you.
I will now ask the corporate officer, Rebecca Anderson, to note and present any written submissions received to date regarding the proposed OCP and zoning amendment bylaws.
Thank you, Mayor White. As you can see by the amended agenda package consolidated this morning, there were 133 written submissions from 155 individuals. The amended agenda was published at 12 p.m. on April 25th, 2023. There was one additional written submission received relating to the proposed bylaw after preparation of the agenda. Ken Campbell submitted the following email correspondence this afternoon. I am opposed to the proposed submitted for this project. I base this position on these three issues. One, the structure does not fit with the ambience of Lower Gibsons. It would appear that the architect has little understanding of the culture of the area. I recognize that this issue is subjective. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but want to mention it anyway. I disagree with the sale of the town land for any purpose. Land is a valuable part of the community and public land should be held for future generations. Three, I am concerned about the qualifications of the developer. This proposal will impact Gibsons for years to come, and one would hope that any developer would have a strong record of working on major projects with small towns. I do not see any such history with the developer here. I envision a significant eyesore in this construction during the coming years and question whether the developer has the skill set and the resources to complete it as promised. I hold the council responsible for due diligence and expect them to look at other projects that this developer has completed. I am especially interested in how this developer has managed to incorporate heritage buildings in the other developments. This project will be the legacy of the current council. It is important that they choose wisely. Ken and Mishi Campbell from Gibsons. As noted, individuals may choose to forward written submissions via email to planning@gibsons.ca. That's PLANNING, planning@gibsons.ca, up to the close of the hearing. Those submissions will be collated at the adjournment and circulated to council for consideration. That's the only comments I have to make.
We will now be seeking further public input. Is there anyone wishing to speak for or against the proposed bylaws?
You'll be joined by Leanne Johnson.
Do we have Manfred in line? Okay. No.
Here comes Leanne Johnson now. Leanne, if you could please turn on your camera.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, just looking for the button. Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this, and I can.
Sorry, Leanne. I just want to let everyone know. Do we have the timer working too?
Do you have it?
Yeah, I just want to let everyone know that Councillor Kroll has joined us here in the chambers, so he's all of council is able to hear what everyone has to say from here on in.
Thank you,
Go
Mayor
ahead.
White.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm Leanne Johnson. I live at 400 South Fletcher in Gibsons and have for 30 years. And I also previously spent 9 years on council. So I appreciate the difficulty of fielding an application of this nature that's bound to be controversial. I am opposed to the rezoning of the land and the change to the OCP. I am particularly concerned about the sale of public land. Part of the responsibility of merchants in Lower Gibsons many years ago was to put money forward for securing future parking. And this land was in part, I believe, at least in part, purchased with some of those funds for public parking for the merchants in Lower Gibsons. And while I would be I think would be appropriate to reconsider that perhaps at some point in the future, certainly not selling it public land, which is a public asset for private profit, is not in the public interest. There is land on the other sides of Stonehurst that I believe could be purchased if this people proposing this project really wish to proceed. And taking away public land is not justified in my mind for expanding this project. If one of the purposes is to preserve the historic house of Stonehurst, which does have important values to the community, and I think actually values nationwide, the changes that are proposed to this historic building will not preserve it. The changes in roof lines and additions of balconies on the exterior of the building will significantly alter the historic appearance of the building. There are also changes in windows and doors. And these are all features that would not be permitted. And I did at one time own and help restore a historic home in Victoria and under provincial guidelines. And I know that those things are absolutely not allowed. So that purpose goes out the window with this proposal. The interesting thing to me here is that there are several sort of lowball offers, I think, on the table. $150,000 to rebuild that park seems not only low, but
I'm sorry, Leanne, we're the 3 minutes are up at this
okay,
point,
there
but-
you go.
Yeah.
You got it.
Okay. Okay.
I will now be moving over Judith Bonkoff, who asked to be placed on the speakers list earlier today. Judith, can you turn your camera on?
Oh, is that Michael?
Yes, I'm here. Can you
Okay.
see me?
Yeah.
All right.
We can't see you.
So we have Michael Bonkoff here.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Michael Bonkoff and I live at 628 Glen Road, Gibsons, BC. I want to start by saying clearly that I am against the zoning changes proposed to Lot 23 and to Lot 529. Lot 23 is currently a nice, understated, and peaceful area in Lower Gibsons. It was left to the people of Gibsons by prior generations and needs no changes, save to allow a developer to make a bunch of money. As to Lot 529, what does it take to convince our council and other councils, even past councils, to honor our OCP and our harbor plan? We have one. Honor it and do not change this zoning. Keep to what is outlined in our plan and you won't go wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Just,
Just 1 second, please.
okay, there we go.
Thank you. I'm now moving over Dennis Provost.
There I am now. So
Yeah, we should be off now. Stop
Okay,
it.
just 1 sec while I move you back over. I think I'm having trouble moving people out of the panelist. So Dennis Provost is joining you, and I'll continue working on removing people. If you get disconnected, my apologies. Dennis Provost is joining me now.
Okay. Could you turn your camera on, Dennis? There you are. You can unmute.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Dennis.
Yep. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks for the tutelage, Mayor White. And thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Dennis Prevost. I live at 526 South Fletcher in a condo unit number 6. Happen to be right across the street of School Road to this development. And I will start off by saying I am definitely against the rezoning and change of the OCP to allow such a development and ultimately have the town sell the property. Firstly, I'm disappointed that the town is not promoting that fact, that basically we're just talking about rezoning and change of the OCP, but nowhere is there mention that the ultimate MO of this is to sell the town property. So I'm definitely against the town selling such an asset. And in future, it may be used for an old age home or maybe a heritage tourist attraction or something, but there is other uses for that property other than selling it to a developer who's going to build condos and sell them for millions and millions of dollars, doing nothing to help affordable housing or anything to increase the attractiveness of Gibsons, which we're known to be, and we're getting better known as a nice little seaside village, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not going to go into details, but selling that property is just a very bad idea, in my opinion. So the sale of it, if it does go through, and to this developer, I think there is knowledge that this developer is questionable. I'll use that word very lightly. If you do some research on him, he may not have the credibility to build such a thing. And we're just scared that it's going to be a big boondoggle, having these condos built, if it does go through, with entrance and exits onto the steepest part of School Road is crazy. Even though there was a traffic study done, all you have to do is be like me, live across the street and see all the potential of huge accidents going on. I see I only have 34 seconds, so maybe I'll end up speaking again. But as far as the heritage, he's gutting the inside. It's not going to be kept as a heritage building. The outside is going to be changed. If it does go through, the heritage look of that building right now is going to change completely. It's going to be dwarfed by these huge condo buildings all around it. So I respectfully ask you to please do not rezone, don't change the OCP, and don't sell the property. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis.
Next on the list is Christina Lees.
Good evening. My name is Christine.
Where'd she go?
Oh, Christina disappeared.
I'm not sure
Is
what happened there.
Christina there at all? No? Doesn't look like it. It looks like she'll need to.
Okay, hopefully she'll reconnect.
Yeah, let's go to the next person for now.
Next one is Kathy Vance and David Kipling.
And we do need to do one at a time. But we can do one by one if you're both hoping to speak.
Is it Kathy or there we go.
I think there's Kathy. Hi, Kathy. You take the mute off.
Okay, now you can hear me and see me?
Yeah.
All right, now we're in business. Kathleen Vance, 301 Headlands Road, Gibsons. My major concern here is I'm opposed. Okay? I was tempted at one time because I like the English house and I like what it stands for all of Canada, but that temptation is gone because I can't even, in the rendering, I can't recognize the English house anymore. And that's an architectural rendering, which is supposed to be the best possible view. I'm really opposed to selling any land from the town with the only carrot to me in this whole deal was that this house was going to be preserved. But now I don't care anymore because the idea that whole point of this house across Canada and what it means doesn't make sense if we're going to have $1 million condominiums and some developer making an enormous profit. That's not housing for the people. The English house stood for the people of Canada. I don't even have a family doctor because there is nobody the Gibsons Medical Center can attract because they can't afford to live in Gibsons. And I'd remind everybody else in the town, if you have a family doctor, it's probably only temporary. I think Gibsons is becoming a ghost town that's haunted by the very rich. And there is too great a contradiction between the English house and building these kind of condominiums. I mean, what are we going to have next? The Rosa Luxemburg gated community for millionaires? The Marx Engels estates? I mean, really, the contradiction is simply too great. This is how many seconds? I can't see the clock. This is an unknown developer.
1 minute.
I've got a minute. Oh, great.
Yep.
This is an unknown developer. And I just cannot see we're getting a bargain here because it's housing we don't need, we don't want, we can't use. And for the sake of saving one English house, which I cannot recognize in the architectural renderings anymore, and which in fact would, I mean, the whole English, that whole family would turn over in their graves if they saw what was going to happen. And that's it. Now, just my last few seconds to say that David Kipling also wants to speak. So if he does a raise hand, that's him raising his hand, not me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. And we'll go back to Christina now. If we can try that again.
She should be joining you now.
I'm just trying to. What? I have to mute.
Hi, Christina.
Hello.
We'll try this again.
Wonderful. Thank you. My name is Christina Lees. I live at 681 Hillcrest Road. I'm opposed to this proposal of the rezoning of the area, the change in the OCP, and most vehemently against the selling of this for private profit. It is an inappropriate use of space. They're much better use of public lands than a luxury space that accommodates very few people. To mimic some of the conversation, I think if we were to do anything with it as a community, it should be used for first responders and or frontline workers who are having a hard time finding a place to live. And in fact, it would honor the background of Stonehurst. Secondly, I believe that all of the people of residents of Gibsons, as well as the councillor and mayor, are meant to be proponents and stewards of our land. And you are to act on our behalf. And it is obvious that there is a large concern about development here. Thirdly, I'm concerned about the impact of further development in Gibsons while we continue to postpone infrastructure upgrades to maintain the significant growth that has happened in Gibsons over the last 5 years. I want to also make clear that this purchase is not done for the goodness of the developer's heart. It is to make money, and that money would go solely into one developer's pocket, not for the benefit of all. So on that note, I want to thank you all.
Thank you, Christina.
Next on the list is Des Delaney.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can't see you.
Okay, that's
So,
okay. I'm
That's
you a
okay
favor.
if,
I'm doing you a favor.
okay.
First of all, I'll just go to the easy part. I'm not in support of selling the land. I think the community, the lower business areas really need the parking in the park as it is. So presuming, I'll take a little bit of a different tack, presuming all the other council members agree with me, then what? There's a lot of support for the Inglis residence to be kept. It's a private residence owned by a private person. There's a lot of people in the community that think that they have the right to tell them what to do with it. On the other hand, the person that actually owns it is showing interest that he has a business model that he wants to turn it into an inn and a bistro. That's all good stuff. Like, you've got sort of a middle ground here. So let's take the parking lot right out, and council says, no, parking lot's not on it. The developer is on public record of saying, well, I'd like to keep it, I'd like to develop it. So you ask him to come back with a proposal just for the property he owns. His first big challenge will be parking for any sort of development he wants to put there, which obviously is driving his, eyes to the property next door, which provides the parking which the town owns. There's a little bit of a proposal there that indicates that it would be possible to perhaps put an upper level of parking there and come to some sort of arrangement. So this sort of could be a win-win here, whereby the developer is turned down and told to come back, and there is precedent for that on a couple of applications recently where it was taken down from 6 stories to 4 stories and come back. So we're going to take the public land off the agenda as far as selling it to you. But if you want to keep the Inglis house and you want a bistro and inn and you need some accommodation around it, whether it's condos or a boutique inn or something that's a huge asset, and as a result, it's not zoned for that, but we could have a chat and, give you some density for what you're doing. And we have a parking lot next door, or maybe we could negotiate on, on the existing parking we have, put an upper parkade that gives you the parking you need for your development. It would be a win-win for the whole community. And, it's just a different way of looking at it. It's something that definitely, if you vote to turn it down and say, come on back, let's work together. And, you've got the support for the community that want to keep the place, and you to do that, suggesting that you need to develop some more, then, it's definitely would be an option, I think, that's worth taking. I mean, we've got to get past the pointing fingers and everything else. This person owns the property. He has the right to develop it for what he wants, and come back within the zoning. He also has the right to try and see if he can come to council and use it as a bargaining chip because of, all the people that are supporting it. So I think, a wider view. No, I'm gone.
Wow.
Don't know.
often, I try to make a left turn and I cannot see the
I can't hear him or you, Silas.
The guest mic is off on the laptop in front of the speaker there.
Now you speak.
I can hear Manny.
Can you hear me?
all testing.
With resonance, is resonating.
Can you hear me now?
One nod and one
Testing.
thumbs up and one no.
We can hear there's a bit of an echo.
There's a
But we
lot
can
of
hear.
echo right now. Yeah. Well, I really don't want to hold up the meeting because I submitted my objections to the plan. And okay, thank you.
much did we pay for this system?
Can you hear me? Yeah, there's going to be a bit of an echo with the system. Yeah. So I've turned my audio back on.
We can hear you.
It's not that bad. It's not as bad
The
as.
echo's not that bad?
No, it's not as bad as that speaker. His was bad.
Okay,
Might want to get rid of that mic.
where's Al?
I'm here.
Hello, Al. You're in the dark, though.
I am. I don't know why that is, actually.
Okay, well, at least we've got sound now.
That's a good thing. Yes. Okay. And like Des Delaney said, maybe this is a good feature that you actually can't see me. Anyways, say go. Okay, go. Okay. Al Beaver, 837 Ocean Mountain Boulevard, Gibsons. I'm against this proposal, rejected outright. It has really no redeeming value to the town, and I've heard this, from the speakers already. It's greatly in excess of sustainable unit density thresholds, well over the high density residential threshold. It'll require an excessive amount of concrete and produce an untenable carbon footprint, plus the unacceptable removal of existing trees, vegetation, and the Capilano Aquifer, which is a critical stormwater natural asset that works. It functions hand in glove along with our other creek systems and assets. It's not net zero construction, and that's going to work to cripple our race to zero climate action commitments for the next 70 to 80 years before we can demolish it and solve and correct the problem. And on top of all that, it's an affront to Premier Eby's housing plan. It's a gentrification of Lower Gibsons. It's really, we need to update the OCP first, like our election commitments, or we're doomed to more colonialism style land management. And that's what we're chasing here. And that's not a good look. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Next, it looks like Denise Dombrowski. There you are.
Hello. Hello, is it echoing still?
Nope.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am already on written record as being opposed to the development as it stands for the main reason of, I don't agree, sorry, I'll be in the camera. I don't agree that selling public land is going to do anything to benefit the general residents of the town. One of my concerns is that the money is not earmarked for something specific, and there's a list of what may or may not happen to that money. I want to thank the corporate officer for giving us the number of submissions, 133 submissions. Is it too early to know how many of those submissions are in favor and how many are opposed? Or is that an appropriate question to ask at this time?
Just keep going, Denise, and
Okay. So I would like that answered.
address that.
I'd like to have a sense of how many of those submissions. Of course, I can go through them myself. The other, I've listened to the other people who are talking, and I agree with Des Delaney in, perhaps there could be an alternative plan put up by the developer that council could consider that either did not involve the sale of the land. An interesting option that has been discussed is perhaps a land swap so that the town actually gets something for the sale of that land, which is another parcel of land. I think that might be a way around the dilemma of selling a town asset, is getting another asset in its place. I personally do not think that, as many people have spoken about, that the English residence is being preserved in a way that makes it a heritage site worth saving. So I don't think that is a big, strong calling card on the part of the developer. So, I will end it there. And if by the end of the meeting we could have the numbers of who's for and against, or how many are for and against, that would be very helpful. But I'm sure it'll come up in the minutes. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I'll just got an echo again. I'll address that question. We're not breaking it down in for or against. Sometimes it's hard to. Everybody who's been speaking this evening has been very clear about saying right off the bat whether they're for or opposed. But it can be subjective to decide that from written submissions, and it will be up to councillors to go through those submissions and hear from people and do their own judgment on how what the public submissions are.
Thank you.
And yeah, as you said, Denise, people can do that themselves as well in the public submissions that are available on the website. I see Blake McLeod now.
Is that up to me to begin?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in support of this project. As my submission indicates, I've got a few other thoughts, but I also have some provisos, which I think are pretty reasonable. And the biggest one for me is the Stonehurst question. And I believe strongly and have experience in heritage revitalization agreements. And I believe that would be an effective way of protecting that property and ensuring that the value is maintained in the community for many years to come. And although I understand that that's difficult to work with, and I believe that it's pretty standard that developers will be encouraged somehow with the increased floor space ratio or other concessions to invest the money, because it is a very expensive thing to do, because it involves sacrifices, but there's a pride factor that comes in with it. And I think this community would respond well to that kind of commitment to the restoration and preservation of that as a heritage listed building, not as something that may or may not one day be hit by lightning. Because if it is hit by lightning, it would have to be rebuilt the same way as it is built now, once it's renovated. So there is a lot of incentive on the part of the developer to maintain and keep safe that asset in the community. And the other aspect for me is that I believe the design of the building is a bit abrasive for Lower Gibsons, and it's not just the color scheme, but just the way it's oriented so vertically. And I'd like to see that lowered to long horizontal lines. Get rid of the gables. That's probably for me about 40% of the problem is those gables. The developer loves it. He's got a lot invested in it, but it's inappropriate for that slope. And really, what I'd like to see from the design is for that structure behind Stonehurst to fade away into the landscape, to become part of the forest, and have the Stonehurst really pop in front of it, so that the eye is drawn toward that heritage jewel in our midst. As far as what the community thinks the developer will do, we've got a really good example of the kind of leverage we don't have by a recent development on Gibsons Way, where the developer just said, "I'm just going to build within the zoning," and that's it. And he walked away from the table. We didn't even get a chance to send him back to planning. He just disappeared into the woodwork and said, I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm within my rights to do so. So the idea that we shouldn't be negotiating with developers is never going to be right. It's well within the rights of a property owner to work within the zoning that's applicable when they apply for the development permit, or when they buy a piece of land if it doesn't change, and we have to respect that as a community. Yes, the community is changing quickly, and that's progress, and it's happening all over the world. It's happening across BC. This isn't unusual. So. That's inevitable, and yes, I'm with the community on that. The last part is that we have to just do what we can to make it compatible with the vibe of the community. The last thing is that piece of land.
Thanks, Blake.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, time's up now.
Not a problem.
And I think I see David Kipling next. David?
Yes, start the video down the bottom.
You're just getting your video on?
There you go. It's got that. Okay, here we go.
There you are.
Yeah, I'm opposed to selling any public land.
Oh, you have to give your name and address.
Oh, yeah, David Kipling. I live at 790 Bayview Heights in Lower Gibsons. And if I say anything, I'm opposed to, number one, selling any public land in Gibsons or anywhere else. I'm opposed to this bylaw amendment, and that is my opposition, and I've stated it. Earlier, you said that I don't think you're in a difficult position. I mean, you ran for election. You say you're here to be persuaded, but that's nonsense, because you're all smart. You've probably all been to college and you've read all these books. And if you wanted to be persuaded of whether it was correct or best, you would have gone to a telephone or a laptop computer. It would have given you the correct answer in 5 seconds. So what I assume is you want to hear from us, and what you're hearing from me is I do not want you to sell the public land. I do not want you to amend the bylaw. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you, David.
You want to be persuaded. I don't believe it, because you're not there to be persuaded. I didn't vote for you so that you could sit there and be persuaded. You're supposed to be smart, and you should know this. So what you should really be listening to is somebody who says, yes, I like it, go for it, or no, I don't like it, don't do it. And it shouldn't matter whether I've been to college or can read and write, but if I say I oppose it, that must be equal to anyone who speaks this evening. And if I say I'm for it, that should be equal to Blake McLeod. And this evening, I'm telling you, no, don't sell the public land. No, don't amend the bylaw. And I don't care about the developer, because if the Lord Jesus descended in clouds of glory and said he was going to build beautiful condos, I'd say, sorry, I oppose you. So thank you for your attention. I'm finished.
Thank you, David. Now I see Patrick Legrandeur. Okay, you've been promoted as a panelist, Patrick. Just can't see your video yet. And can't hear you. You still seem to be on mute, Patrick.
Okay. I think I'm unmuted now.
You're unmuted.
Video.
Now I have to start the video.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, we should be almost ready to go.
Click off the.
Shall I start this? Can you still hear me?
No.
Yeah.
I
Start
can't.
video.
I can't get. I'll try and restart the video.
Click.
And
Get rid of the bit defender on the right.
that doesn't matter.
Start my. Video.
Oh, here's start my video. No video yet. It might, maybe it takes a while to get the video started. I'm not sure.
Click
We don't need the video if.
Oh, okay. No, that's
doesn't
fine.
matter to you.
That's okay. I made a written submission as well. And I'm opposed to the
State your name and address.
to the development. I guess I should state my name and my address. I'm Patrick
Yeah, just mention your
Legrander.
address, please.
Patrick Legrander, and I live at 526 South Fletcher. And I'm opposed to it for a lot of the reasons that have already been said, and that is it does not meet the OCP plan. It does not, the character of the building does not, in my opinion, want what the Lower Gibsons residents want. And then the parking issue and the driveway issue out onto South Fletcher, which has already been out onto not South Fletcher, School Road has already been mentioned. But when I went back and I got the notice on the door about the meeting, because I live very close to it, and it keeps referring to we're talking about lot 23 as far as I can see, and the town has divided it into two portions. One is the upper portion and one is the lower portion. And the lower portion, the town already calls it a park. And so I think that we should not sell the land and that we should make the upper portion a park. Now, we only have on School Road, on the east side of School Road, there's only two parks that I know of, Pioneer Park and Ambleside. On the west side of School Road, there's a lot of parks, which I think is great. I think we need more parks for the future so that people can sit down and relax and enjoy what we have. Therefore, I really think that we should make the upper portion a park as well, clean it up, put in some benches, and have people enjoy it rather than sell it to a private entrepreneur. I'm just against that totally. That's all I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I see somebody named Chris. We'll promote you as a panelist, Chris, and you can tell us your full name and address. Okay. Catherine and Gerald. Okay, Catherine. I see you've been promoted, but no video yet.
Can you hear me?
Your audio's on.
Okay, let's start with that. So I'm imagining that I'm standing in George Gibson's statue across the street from the Inglis house. And I'm looking and thinking, oops, what's gone on here? We need to change this. I agree with all of the people who have spoken against the proposal. It does not make sense. I live at 487 South Fletcher, and let me tell you what it's like getting out on that area of School Road and up and down. And I think that when we talk about heritage, I used to work at 301 Metcalfe Street in Ottawa, which was J.S. Woodsworth House. And that is a worship for me. It's the beginning of the CCF and it started here. We can't ignore that. So I please ask you to stop this. Is that okay?
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay.
Does Gerald wish to speak too?
I don't think so.
No, I don't.
No, he doesn't. He's fine. I just said it for him. Okay?
Okay. Well, does anyone else want to speak for a first time? This is your chance. Okay, Leonard. We're promoting. Oh, is Leonard there? Okay. Okay, Leonard, you've been promoted. You can turn on your audio and your video. There you are.
Hey, Mayor, councilors, my name is Len Libben. I live at 719 Gower Point Road. I relative newcomer to Gibsons. I'm approaching this on a slightly different approach. I believe that it's going to become the responsibility of municipalities everywhere to start to look at developing affordable housing, such as for seniors or for, as someone mentioned, first responders and that. I think it's going to become absolutely crucial. So therefore, I don't like selling public land. I think that what I would prefer to see is the town actually develop that, or if you decide to go ahead with the project, then you make sure that you're getting very good value for the land, and you take that money and you buy another piece of land elsewhere, hopefully larger than that could be put towards affordable housing at many levels. So that's really where I'm at, and that's my say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Len. I see Jackie Shelmy next. We'll promote Jackie. Hi, Jackie.
Hello. There we go. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay.
There you are.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to provide our comments. My name is Jackie Shelmy, and I live right across from the property. I am in condo number 4 at 526 South Fletcher. I am opposed to the rezoning and the changes to the OCP and the sale of the land. I'm really concerned about the development itself. I did go to the developer's event that he hosted. I had a good look at all of it, and I've looked on the website. I'm concerned about the size and the design. They are really quite offensive to the existing feel of our lower Gibsons. The development is far removed, in fact, really in opposition to the harbor plan, and that to me is problematic. I'm concerned about the developer's intentions, and I have fears of reliving a Gospel Rock scenario. And I haven't seen anything that to indicate that this couldn't or wouldn't happen in this case. My biggest concern, though, is council's intention to sell off the municipal land, as many others have already stated, simply to assist the developer with his plans. And selling public land, in my opinion, is never a good idea. But this land in particular is prime center of the village land. And it currently serves, obviously, as we all know, as a green space. That parking lot is used, I look at it every day, and it is used, it's 75 to 100% full every single day. And it will be a loss to have that taken away. Council, I worry that nobody really has any way of knowing what the future needs of the Gibsons residents will be. And I believe that selling this land will be a short-sighted decision and not necessarily in the interest of Gibsons residents. So I hope that you will take not only the comments that you've read and that you've heard tonight, but also the conversations and the emails you've received over the last months and weeks leading up to this. And the people that you were elected to represent have been working very, very hard to help you to understand the magnitude and the implications of this decision. And I don't envy you in your position that you've got to take moving forward. But I am very, very hopeful that that you will certainly give it due consideration and all the things you've read and heard. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, I think let's promote Judith Bonkoff. I think this is probably Judith's first time. Yep, there's Judith.
Unmute. How's that? Got me? All right. It's late here, very late. It's 5 after 11. I'm in Ontario, 7 after 11. So, good evening, Mayor White and councillors. My name is Judith Bonkoff and I live at 628 Glen Road when I'm not in Ontario at Gibsons, BC. Firstly, I'd like to thank you, Mayor White, and the councillors for taking the time to meet with me in the last 3 weeks and to discuss my opposition to this zoning amendment and the Stonehurst proposal. I'm a little disappointed in this Zoom meeting because it's been really sketchy. I don't know whether it's because I'm in Ontario, but it's been difficult. I emailed my written submission to the town stating that I am opposed to this zoning amendment for lot 23 and 529 Gibsons Way. And I am glad that most others feel the same. And I echo their reasoning. And I've spoken to all of you and you know my thoughts on all of this. That being said, I will move on to why I object to rezoning lot 23, the town's property. This is public land that was purchased by Gibson's business people for about $60,000, I'm told, in the 1980s, for the sole purpose of providing parking for the landing. And I don't know how you can agree to sell this land that citizens paid for years ago without their permission. I owned a business in the landing years ago, and I know how parking challenged it can be. In the summer season, I use that parking lot, one of those parking lots, all the time because I gave my staff the coveted parking right behind my business. I also note how many more businesses are being built in the landing all the time, eateries, etc., that all require way more parking than we have. If you counted the spaces, you would be astounded at how few spaces we have for all the seats in the restaurants. Why would we agree to sacrifice these very visible parking lots? In fact, they could be even more visible if we put proper signage to underground spaces under a development that will just be absorbed by the development. And we won't, like our people, our tourists, no one will even know that those parking spaces are there. So in my opinion, we do not need to rezone lot 23 because it's already zoned appropriately for what we're using it for. Next is 529 Gibsons Way, Stonehurst. Since this development hinges, you can't hear me?
Sorry, Judy, we've run out of time.
Okay, I'll step up again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, round one may end soon and we
Yeah.
can
Okay,
get you down round two.
right.
Next I see
Okay.
Mark Evans. There's Mark. We just need your sound and video on.
I've been having an issue with video lately, but it appears that it's there. Thank you very much for the opportunity this evening. Approximately 5 years ago, a variance was granted to the Gibsons Marina. And prior to that, there was a proposal that was never acted on, that prior to granting this variance, that a lower Gibsons parking study was to be completed. Mayor White, you were a councillor at that time. I'm sure you remember that is yet to be completed. We have no idea what our parking is. Secondly, English property is not designated as a heritage site, so technically the builder can do whatever they please on that land, providing they fall in with the zoning and building bylaws. So if we are going to negotiate with this person, then they want something and we want something. And what we want is something fair for the land that they are asking for. So equal parking for equal parking, we're not going to get the same equal parking, and we're certainly not going to own that parking when we're finished with it. So we look at the only other land that's available in Lower Gibsons going for $995,000, and that is unusable parking against the waterfront. We could buy that with the money that we would get from this property. However, there is no parking associated with that, and it may be an issue with what was the building there at that time. Multiple term dialogue sessions I have attended, and every time I come out of that, I come out with the same thing, and that is that the residents need and wish and want to see an OCP and zoning amendment so that we know where our high density is, where our affordable housing is going to be. And I know the council is busy, but we need to look at this. And we need to make this a priority so that we're not sitting here looking at something that's, oh, it's 5 feet too high. Well, you know, it's only 5 feet too high because somebody can't live in a building that's only 4.5 feet tall. So that seems to me a conflicting with tonight's meeting. Is we need to look at what our zoning is, what our big picture is. We don't have a big picture, at least an up-to-date big picture. We need something for something. So technically, they can build whatever they want on Stonehurst, and we can't stop them, providing it meets in their standards. I am against selling the town land unless we get something for that other land that is going to offer us what we need for the Lower Gibsons. And there was an article in the paper the other day about the Minister of Finance.
Mark, your time's up.
Okay, the Minister of Finance says that they can't sell land, publicly owned land.
Sorry, Mark, your time's up.
That's it. Thanks very much. Good night.
Good night. Rob Dickinson.
How was that?
Okay, Rob, I see you there. Yeah.
Have you
video's
got
on.
me now?
Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Rob Dickinson. I reside at 501 South Fletcher Road. Like a previous caller, I'm relatively new to this area, but I've been coming here for 50 years, so off and on. I am opposed to this development for a number of reasons. I'm also opposed to changing the OCP. And I am also opposed to the selling of public land. I feel that the heritage component of the Stonehurst is an extremely important entity to Lower Gibsons. I feel that the changes that I see being made in it is not in keeping with the Lower Gibsons area. Also included in that would be the new building behind it, which personally, and I hear it from other people here, is obtrusive. It overshadows the Stonehurst, and it's not giving us as well the housing needs that we're looking for. This town, in my mind, deserves more. I'm almost quivering when I say this because losing the nostalgic history and so on of this community, in my mind, in the long term, is short-sighted. And, you know, I've said it before, I think it's a slippery slope to make all of these changes. It sets us up for failure, I think, moving forward. And to the points made before as well, is that the developer's track record is not there. I don't trust that the right things will be done. And I don't think that our interests are being kept in his mind whatsoever, despite what's been said. Again, the Stonehurst will be compromised. That slope will be compromised in its look and integrity to the lower part of Gibsons. And for that, I cannot accept. That's it. Thank you very much.
I see Larry and Catherine next. And they've been promoted. Just need to get your sound and video on.
Hi there.
Oh. Catherine, could you raise your hand again? Okay, you're there again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Catherine Poole. I live at 748 Maplewood in Lower Gibsons. And first of all, if the storekeepers and the shop owners down in Lower Gibsons purchase this land, I mean, should they not be the ones deciding who to sell it, who they sell it to? I mean, to me, that sort of puts an end to the whole thing right there if they don't want to sell it to this person. But I don't know how the paperwork went through on that. So, but anyway, I mean, I'm completely opposed to it. First of all, we don't need more multi-million-dollar condos in Gibsons. The guy who's building this, first of all, when you read the lack of information on him, the lack of information on the website, he sounds like a shyster to me. And it sounds like somebody
Catherine,
who is going
could
to...
I ask you to just try to focus on the land use?
Well, okay, well, okay, well, this is just
We want to stay away from
that...
personal attacks of anyone involved in this, please.
Okay, that's fine. But you've already got the parking up there. It sounds like you're going to be paying for the parking going forward on an annual basis. And why would you want to sell your land in order to get parking and then pay for the parking. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me, and it's of absolutely no use to the people of Gibsons. You know, what concerns me is if this does not go through, and that you choose not to sell it, what the developer is going to do with that property. To me, if you want it to be as a heritage site, it should be designated as a heritage site right away, because otherwise, if he doesn't get this, he'll just tear it down and build whatever he wants, like these other say. So, I mean, I'm totally against it. I don't see any benefit to the community whatsoever. You know, there's just nothing. We've already got the park there. You know, we have no control over what he does with the house unless we turn it into a heritage site ASAP, which I don't know if you can do that post sale. So it's, you know, so the only, it sounds like he sort of got us between a rock and a hard place in some ways. So, but I'm definitely against the way it is right now.
Okay.
And I
Thank you,
don't
Catherine.
think that land should be sold.
And you've been promoted. Just need to unmute and video.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, Danielle Siegel, 623 Farnham Road. I just want to say that I oppose selling the town land for all the reasons everybody else has already said, so I'm not going to waste any more time. But I do really like what Des Delaney was saying, and I don't oppose a little bit of development around there. I just really think we need the parking. I go to Lower Gibsons all the time in a car for many reasons, business related, children related, and I see what happens in our tourist season, and we need the parking. So I don't think 16 spots is enough. And yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. And I see Catherine and Gerald have their hand up again. I'm not sure if this would be Gerald this time or if this is for the second. We'll find out.
Hey guys, bedtime.
Okay, we can remove the previous panelist, right?
She talking to us?
Sorry. The previous panelist isn't on mute, so I think that's the priority too.
Time here. There we go. Does that help?
Yeah.
Mute.
Okay, Catherine and Gerald, you're up again. I just want to check to see if it's Gerald who wants to speak this time, or if you've got your hand up for the second round. Otherwise, we're close to the second round here. No one else who hasn't spoken has their hand up currently. So I just want to let everyone know that. If you want to speak for the first time, now's your chance for 3 minutes. Otherwise, we're going down to the second round of 2 minutes.
Hello, this is Gerald speaking.
Oh, hi, Gerald.
Yeah, I'd like to just add a few things that are new. I think that first of all, I'm opposed to the rezoning for the following reason, and it's very, very simple. This opens a floodgate, not only for all the proposals that are already in the works, but also future proposals that come in that would affect the aquifer, parking, traffic, and what else? There's all sorts of other issues that from what I can see, is that none of the proposal documents have considered everything that's in the works and the future repercussions. This will significantly increase, like I said, demands on the aquifer. We don't know with the province of the drawing rights that they give, which is on the current population. If the population increases considerably, will we revert back to water shortages again earlier, much sooner? Will the traffic increase? And also the parking problems, and also with all the associated problems that are associated with it. So think of the long-term implications of the zoning implication, not just this particular proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. And as I said, we're at the end of our first round here. So we're ready for our second round of speakers for people who want to speak twice. And I see, oh, we've got one more. You just caught me. Devin. Devin, you can have your first chance at speaking.
Hi there. I wasn't actually planning on speaking, so I'm glad I could just catch you. I just wanted to chime in with maybe a slightly different perspective, which is one of an Area E resident just down Pratt next door. But as someone who hasn't had the privilege of living in Gibsons a long time and who doesn't actually have a deep and long history in this place, but I do represent someone who has chosen this place as my home and who is deeply, deeply invested, along with many other young people, in the long-term well-being and health of our community. And so, like many others have voiced today, I think there are many creative solutions possible for this lot in this location. However, to be pushing through a zoning and OCP amendment, as well as a sale of public land for private developer profit, does not represent those creative solutions. I got the privilege to now call this place home, and I feel that any sale of public land of this sort that isn't supporting affordable housing to make that possible for more people is a mismanagement of our land. And yeah, I just hope I would urge the town council to reconsider selling this land for a purpose that isn't advancing our communal equity and resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin. And now we will try to go on to our second round of speakers of people who've, I don't see. So, okay. Yeah, so we're ready for our second round of speakers of people who've spoken before. And now you have an opportunity to speak for 2 more minutes. And I see Dennis up first. Okay, Dennis, you've been promoted. Just need to get your sound and video on. Oh, sorry, Dennis, can you raise your hand again? And, there he is. Just need you to get your video and sound on now, Dennis. There you are.
Okay, you got me?
Go ahead.
Okay. I know you're not supposed to speak at this thing, so I will answer a couple of questions for you about the parking. People are saying the parking is going to disappear. It will not disappear. There will be 16 smaller spots. If you look at the drawings, there are, I think, 10 what they call standard spots, which are quite small to begin with. The other 6 are small spots. So it's not disappearing. The town will get these spots. Also, it's not going to be paid parking. So people are saying the wrong thing. So it's going to be free public parking, but it's not going to be easily accessible. You're not going to be able to walk to it and then walk directly out onto a school road. So that's one thing. However, those spots will be absorbed by the development, in my opinion. So they might as well disappear, but they're not going to disappear because the developer is going to replace them with smaller spots. So as far as the heritage, Blake McLeod mentioned that he would like to see the development fade away into the slope, change the development, the look of it. You can't fade that away into the slope. I'm sorry. Also, the counselors, I gotta thank you. I've spoken to some of you individually. Thank you for stepping up and doing the right thing. You might like it, you might not like it, but whatever you vote for, the town's citizens should be proud of a group of people like you that listen, hopefully, to the people and make a decision. If you like it and the majority doesn't like it, we as voters who voted you in would expect you, hopefully, to do the right thing and listen to the town. So thank you for stepping up, being a counselor, and making the right decision. Thanks.
Thank you, Dennis. And next we have Des Delaney, speaking for the second time. Des has been promoted. We just need you to unmute, Des, and maybe even see you by video this time.
There we go.
There you are.
Perfect. Des Delaney, Wildwood Crescent. Again, still opposed to it, but devil's advocate. We have a property exactly the same size as Stonehurst with a house on it. And by coincidence, right next to us, we have a property exactly the same size, which is also exactly the same size as the town-owned land. So even though I'm opposed, if the rezoning went through and you voted and said, okay, it's all a go, that would be very difficult to turn myself and my neighbour down with the same size property, which is between Wildwood and Abs. And we could also apply to rezone that same size for 22 units plus an existing house. Now, the development at Stonehurst wouldn't even need to be built. We could use that as a sort of criteria, and then 100 meters away, there's another property with supportive housing that's a similar size that's got the density of 40 units. So I guess what my point that I'm making, it's the thin edge of the wedge. You do density like that down that location, what's to stop myself and my neighbor? What's to stop another couple of neighbors? You know, basically once you go down this road, as we again saw with the school road project straight across the road, suddenly up we go. There's a density for 9 houses. It doesn't get built, but it's on the market for 5 times what the person paid for it. So, you know, this is part of what can be played with the zoning situation. You don't actually even physically have to build. All you have to do is go through what you've got here, do a bit of a sketch, convince everybody, use Stonehurst as a pawn, get the rezoning and resell it for a lot of money without doing anything. So I wouldn't do something like that, but lots of people do, and it's perfectly legal. But if this went through, you know, people could.
Thanks, Des.
Thank you.
And Blake McLeod is next.
Blake McLeod, 721 Wynn Road. I didn't do that last time. That's a property owned in Lower Gibsons. I did want to finish up with regard to the property that's being considered for sale, and I wanted
sorry, Blake, we'll start over again, but we've still got the previous panelist on with sound and video. Just at least letting you know, Des. Okay. Not sure we've got the mute on anyway. Okay, there we go. Okay, go ahead again. Sorry about that, Blake.
Okay, so Blake McLeod, 721 Wynn Road. It's a property owned in Lower Gibsons. I live in Upper Gibsons. I wanted to address the issue of the land, and I agree with a lot of the speakers, contributors this evening, that the land should be dedicated to something of public value. I see it as a higher value property that could be leveraged to create socially beneficial housing somewhere. I don't know where that would be, but I think if it was earmarked for that purpose, the community would be pleased with that. I also hear a lot of misinformation being spoken to from the public tonight. And I also see a lot of common ground being expressed. People expressing sort of sincere worries that could be addressed with simple solutions. So I think there's maybe a lot more information that needs to be offered to people to assuage their concerns. But I think there's a lot of common ground, and saving that heritage site, you don't just, it was like Gospel Rock. There was a lot of talk about people buying that land and saving it as a park. Well, nobody stepped forward to do it. And it's an incredibly expensive proposition. And the same thing with Stonehurst. Someone stepped forward and offered to save it. Well, we need some guarantees, we need some assurances, and also potentially we need some assurances on the financial viability of it. All of these things are up to council to decide on. And I think this process has been very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Next, we have Michael or Judith Monkoff for the second time. Judith.
Hello again. You hear me? You can hear me? Okay. So I left off telling you that I didn't want you to rezone lot 23 because we just needed it for parking. So next is 529 Gibsons Way. And since this development hinges on rezoning 23, then I would say it should not get its zoning amendment unless it fits the OCP. So that means if he comes back just to rezone his own property, that it needs to fit the OCP. And maybe we would award an amendment if the Stonehurst was dedicated heritage, that the amendment might be okay because we get a heritage designation. That's what I'm saying. I ask all of you, Mayor and Council, to use your critical thinking and agree with me that this zoning amendment is flawed. And I urge you to vote against rezoning either lot. The town should have consulted with us a long time ago, and we wouldn't be here at third reading just finding out there was so much opposition to the sale of this public land. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith.
Yeah.
And now we have David Kipling for the second time. Okay, we've promoted you, David. Yeah.
It's not David.
Oh, it's Kathleen Vance.
301 Headlands. And I just briefly wanted to say, I hope I'm not misinformed. I got all my information from the town of Gibson's website. So I don't think I'm misinformed. All I want to say is, again, my priorities are food, shelter, and water. I've got a house through because I've been here 30 years, I could never buy a house in Gibsons today. It does me absolutely no good to have it quadruple, quintuple, whatever it's going to do in so-called real estate value, because if I don't have water, I can drink. If my neighbors are living in campers or in the backwoods, so I can't even walk the hiking trails without feeling bad. If we don't have a proper food supply, if none of that works, what good is all that housing value for me? I do not need more condominiums. I do need to have a family doctor. I do need to have, the clinic said the doctor said they have a solution. They want a health center. It sounds great. It's very well thought out, but I don't know where the staff's going to come from because they have nowhere to live. When I talk to younger people, like in my dance class or something, they say, oh, I just don't know how much longer I can stay in Gibsons because I simply can't afford to live here. I can never buy anything. It's hopeless. So again, I say, I just cannot see us using any resources to for multi-million-dollar condominiums. And I know what the CCF is about. I mean, everybody, I'm an immigrant to Canada, but it wasn't in Canada long before I learned what the CCF was. So I see no point.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. Mute.
And I see no one else with their hand up for that second round of speaking for 2 minutes. We'll open it up to anyone who hasn't spoken yet. You can have an opportunity to speak for 2 minutes. Seeing none, does anyone want to speak for a third time? Who's spoken twice? For a second time, is there anyone wishing to speak for or against the proposed bylaws? I see Harriet. Oh, or maybe not. Okay, we'll promote Harriet.
Unmute.
And yeah, we just need you to, so
I'm
you've
unmuted.
unmuted.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you barely. Try again, Harriet. Can't hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
My computer says I'm muted, but I'm not.
We can hear you.
I have tried to. My name is Harriet Hunter. I live in Gibsons, 896 Charman Road. I apologize. I've tried to get on, but I just didn't know how to do it. I am fundamentally against giving this lot 23 to the developer. I think it should not be zoned and that we should not lose public assets. And I also heartily agree with all that everybody has said tonight. You have a lot of good ideas to work with, and I hope you do your best and make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Harriet.
So what?
I was on to my second time asking if there's anyone wishing to speak for or against the proposed bylaws. And I will ask for the third and final time. Is there anyone wishing to speak for or against the proposed bylaws? Seeing none, I'll conclude to say that please note that once a public hearing regarding a bylaw is adjourned, council may not continue to receive further information or feedback from members of the public regarding that bylaw. That is a provincial law on the process. Municipalities are legally required to ensure transparency, procedural fairness, and due process when considering public input regarding a bylaw. This legal requirement arises from common law established by court cases and includes requiring that all public feedback received be publicized as part of the open session, the public hearing, and is made available to everyone in attendance. This is to ensure transparency of everything that is considered by members of council when giving the bylaw further readings. For this reason, council and staff will not accept any further public input after the adjournment of the public hearing. Being no further, there being no further input, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this public hearing. I see a mover, a seconder. All those in favor? The public hearing is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for attending.